Welcome back to The Explainer. Today we are looking at one of the absolute most entertaining and honestly surprisingly educational cases of political strategy you will ever come across. We're breaking down the actions of Princess Mia of the Tirmun Empire. Now on paper, Princess Mia is hailed as this monumental strategic mastermind, a leader who seamlessly stabilizes entire economies and de-escalates tense border conflicts. But here is the amazing secret. Her grand political reputation is built almost entirely on her desperate, hilarious instinct to just survive and live comfortably. It's this brilliant, laugh-out-loud juxtaposition between absolute cowardice and perceived genius.
Okay, let's dive into this. I mean, it sounds completely absurd, right? How in the world does an entirely self-serving princess accidentally save her whole empire from the brink of collapse? Well, she does it by acting purely in her own self-interest, only for everyone around her to misinterpret her panic as profound statecraft. It is a literal masterclass in how perception can shape history. So let's map out exactly how her unintentional brilliance unfolds.
Here's our roadmap for today. We're going to look at escaping a tragic fate, securing the food supply, unpacking the friendship price, then we'll pivot over to the Selene Forest conflict, a masterful diplomatic bluff, and finally wrap up with the unintentional peacemaker. Let's get right into it.
All right, part one, escaping a tragic fate. This is the intensely personal motivation behind literally every single political maneuver she makes.
Mia's internal monologue is, well, astonishingly simple. She's literally just thinking, I must write over the sad scenario to live in comfort. You see, she retains memories of her past life where she was actually executed, sent right to the guillotine. So her only real goal is to dodge that gruesome fate and, eat good food. But in stark contrast, her advisors view her as a monstrous political genius. This is what we like to call the genius gap, the incredibly hilarious contrast between a princess just trying to avoid the chopping block and her followers projecting unparalleled strategic foresight onto her every little move.
Now, even though she's totally just looking out for number one, the crises facing the Tirmun Empire are no joke. Her memories of execution are her driving force, sure, but those memories actually give her incredibly actionable intelligence. She knows for a fact that a future famine is completely inevitable. She also knows that merely hoarding and storing food right now creates these crushing storage costs that will completely bankrupt the state. And on top of all that, she absolutely must prevent regional conflicts from sparking the very rebellion that leads to her execution in the first place. Her selfish needs just happen to align perfectly with the survival of the state. So, that brings us to part two, securing the food supply. Mia needs a solution that doesn't completely ruin the treasury with storage fees, and to pull that off, she needs a critical new ally. Enter Marco Fork Road. This guy is a wildly powerful merchant, but much more importantly for Mia, he's the dad of her school friend, Chloe. Talk about a convenient connection. Instead of going through traditional, highly expensive diplomatic trade routes, Mia just casually leverages a schoolyard connection to score a direct meeting with the top supplier.
So they meet, and Mia just drops this absolute gem. She says, I propose buying wheat from overseas at what I call a friendship price. And she delivers this line with the innocent smile of a naive princess just asking for a favor from her friend's dad. But in reality, what she is proposing masks a highly sophisticated commodities futures contract.
Let's move to part three, the friendship price explained. Time for a little microeconomics to break down the actual mechanics of this seemingly innocent deal.
Here's how this works. Mia basically locks in a deal to buy a set quantity of wheat at a fixed price, completely regardless of market fluctuations. In normal times, the empire actually pays slightly above market price, meaning Marco gets a guaranteed steady profit on a fixed volume. Great for him, right? But during famine times, when global food prices inevitably skyrocket, Marco is legally bound to provide that wheat at the fixed lower price. This meticulously balanced deal acts as the empire's ultimate insurance policy. It guarantees a stable, affordable food supply exactly when they'll need it most, without dealing with the current burden of those crazy storage costs.
The dramatic irony here is just off the charts. Mia literally just wanted cheap wheat so she wouldn't starve or get overthrown, but Marco's reaction says it all. To build a system that won't let her people starve while bringing profit to her trading partner, what a terrifying person. Marco interprets her self-preservation as profound, empathetic economic statecraft. He truly thinks she is deliberately balancing merchant profits with social welfare to subtly loosen the rigid grip of the nobility. She accidentally negotiated a masterclass trade agreement.
But hey, economics is only half the battle, right? Let's pivot to diplomacy in part four,
the Selen Forest conflict. This is the second massive crisis threatening Mia's comfortable future.
Here's how quickly things spiral out of control. First, you've got Viscount Berman, who is basically driven by petty greed and just wants to outshine a rival noble. To do this, he arbitrarily orders the clearing of the Selen Forest to expand his territory. Well, the indigenous Lulu Tribe, who actually live in the forest, naturally prepared to defend their home. In a total panic, Berman uses bribery to dispatch imperial troops. Suddenly, a petty noble rivalry has escalated into a military standoff, risking total war. And guess what? This is the exact war Mia knows from her diary will trigger the total collapse of the empire.
And the absolute kicker here is the scale, 100 men. Berman has deployed a 100-man army to the edge of the forest. The sheer size of this deployment makes de-escalation incredibly difficult. I mean, the army cannot just leave without a valid reason, or it will severely anger the nobles and make the military look incredibly weak. Mia realizes she has to stop the violence to save her own skin, so she uses a unicorn hairpin, a random gift from a Lulu Tribe descendant in the slums, as her excuse to visit the front lines.
Which sets the stage perfectly for Part 5, a masterful diplomatic bluff, or at least an entirely unintended one. Mia arrives at the front lines, but things definitely do not go as planned.
So she gets there, and who does she immediately run into? Captain Dion, the guy who literally executed her in her past life. She is utterly terrified by his presence in the tense military atmosphere. Her only coherent thought is escape. So, what does she do? Princess Mia trips on a root, blames a vicious tree, and in a total, unadulterated panic, immediately orders the entire 100-man army to escort her back to town for her protection. It is a purely cowardly action. She literally just wants to run away.
This is the Rashomon effect in full swing. In Mia's reality, she is terrified and just wants to run away from this dangerous place. But Captain Dion's view? He knows his men shouldn't fight the tribe, but he lacked a legal reason to withdraw. By demanding an escort, Dion firmly believes she deliberately created a flawless pretext for the army to retreat without angering the nobles. Because protecting the princess is the highest military priority, the army can suddenly withdraw with their honor completely intact.
And that leads us into our final section, Part 6, the unintentional peacemaker. Talk about saving the day by total accident. The massive gap between Mia's intention and the public's perception has officially saved the empire. Dion is just blown away. His takeaway? What an incredible bluff. The princess is a master of de-escalation. Once again, her top advisors and military commanders project their own tactical hopes onto her clumsy, panic-driven behavior. They assume she intentionally kicked a tree to create a face-saving exit strategy for the military, thereby preventing a bloody conflict and saving the indigenous tribe.
But wait, we have to talk about Mia's actual takeaway from the day. It is the perfect comedic punchline. I'm exhausted, I just want to rest and live in comfort. She completely misses the geopolitical magnitude of what she just accomplished. She stopped a war, secured the border, and saved a marginalized tribe, but her only thought is taking a nap because her feet hurt. It is incredibly mundane, wonderfully self-centered, and exactly why she is such a deeply fascinating character.
So this leaves us with a really fascinating question. Is true statecraft about having these grand, noble intentions, or is it just about surviving the day with a clever insurance policy? Princess Mia proves that sometimes you really don't need a grand ideological vision to save a country. Sometimes being terrified of the consequences and acting out of sheer self-preservation can accidentally result in a masterclass of diplomacy and economics. What do you think makes a better leader? Let that sink in. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning the history you think you know.